Alright, so let's clear something up here before we begin. Today's subject matter, 1982, released this year onto the Steam service, is free. Doesn't cost a penny, there's no intrusive ads or microtransactions to be found. You find this on Steam, you click on play, it installs, takes up about 18 megabytes on the hard drive, and there you go, no charge. That's one point 1982 has going for it. The other point? For a freebie, 1982 is actually enjoyable for a lark. And that's a good thing. The whole premise of the game is pretty much the same as any old school arcade style shooter. You control a little vehicle or turret or whatever you want to call it at the bottom of the screen and must fend off against a wave of enemies who will descend upon you in various forms or fashions. There's 3 modes of play, all of them pretty much the same as far as the overall gameplay is concerned, but alters the parameters surrounding your chances of survival. Arcade mode gives you a health meter that drains whenever you take damage, and when the meter is empty you explode and the game ends, pretty self-explanatory. Survival mode is a one-hit kill scenario, in which one hit and it's game over. And then there's time attack, where you try to inflict as much damage as you can upon the enemy within the time allotted. You can also alter your difficulty settings if you prefer for some reason, and there's also some other bits and bobs that you could play with, I guess. But regardless of all that, the general goal of 1982 remains the same, and that is to blow up everything that shows up on screen. Everything you kill nets you 1 point, but once you manage to fill this rapidly draining meter on the left side of your screen, kills will be worth 2 points. Then you fill the meter again and kills are worth 3 points, and so on and so forth. And along the way you have these gray little ships that show up and hover above. If you shoot them, they'll drop a power up that will not only give you a health boost if applicable, but also grant your turret a temporary upgrade of sorts, whether it be rockets, enhanced lasers, or shields. Of course you'll actually need to pick these pickups up to take advantage of these gifts, but you can also shoot said power-ups and they'll unleash some sort of attack that will help out a bit. This adds a bit of strategy to the mix, as you need to gauge whether you want health or a good weapon, or could afford to turn those pickups into a smattering of bullets. For what it is, 1982 is not that bad. It's a simple shmup that does what it does relatively well and does it in a way that's tried and tested. Runs at a nice smooth speed, has a nice little difficulty curve that starts easy, gets more challenging along the way, and sometimes gives you a bit of a breather along the way before ramping things up again. You can control the little turret with either the keyboard, the mouse, or a gamepad, and ideally I'd go with the mouse since it provides a bit more of that precision control, not unlike a paddle control or something to that ilk. And it works really well too. The other setups work just as well I suppose, but not much to it really. You just go left and right and shoot. And you can hold down the fire button for rapid fire so your trigger finger won't be completely destroyed by all that firing you'll have to do to destroy everything above, and you can just focus on blowing stuff up and evade deadly collisions with death and stuff. That's always fun. As you could probably tell on screen, 1982 has objects that resemble arcade sprites from the 1980s with ugly black strokes around the figures. There are some sprites that are modeled after or just straight up rip off classic iconic arcade figures like the Pac-Man Ghost, the Space Invader, and the Robotrons. In addition to the on-screen sprites and their solid colors, there's also a simple looking background that shifts colors and things as you progress further in the game, whatever that means. And there's also all sorts of pop-up text that appear when you do really well and serve to give off that acid feel, whatever that means. It's supposed to be celebratory, but it's just distracting on a whole. Other than that, it's a clean looking game if nothing else. I get the game is trying to go for a stylized 80s style arcade game with distracting effects, vibe looking look to it. It's an acquired taste I suppose. It's not bad looking, but it's okay. 1982 has one single music track that plays throughout the whole game, and it's the generic techno chiptune popish sort of beat that people usually put together out of the blue and call it video game themed or something to that extent. Now if the singular stock music track doesn't do it for you, then the game does allow for custom music that you could load up yourself, and the game will play if you choose the custom music option, and that's a thing you could do.
Tell the world you're playing a game with a BJ theme.
Get ready.
However, the music track will usually get drowned out by the sound effects that are decidedly archaic sounding and sounding like something ripped from old technology that's ages old, or at least does a good enough job of faking it. In either case, it kinda sounds like an 80s arcade game with a generic music track in the background, and that's fine, I guess. Overall, 1982 is a free quickie that's good for a lark if you're into old school or manic shooter type combinations, and that's all there is to it really. It's simple, it's free, it's good for a quick fix, and it's got leaderboards if you care for that sort of thing. On a whole, yeah, one decent little freebie on Steam. 1982. And then 2 years later we get the sequel where Big Brother is watching everything. So have fun everybody, and keep the tinfoil hats close. I don't even know where I'm going with that one. I don't care. I'm off to bed. Good night.